everyone, I'm Carolyn. Welcome back to another episode of As I See It. I know it's been a while. I'm traveling cross country right now, and it's getting harder every year. I'm not getting any younger. So while I think about what's going on in the world and I watch a lot of news and I think about putting content out on this channel, I simply don't have the time and energy. And as I said in my previous video, I am really mindfully practicing self-care. And what I'm thinking at this point is that it's more important than ever to take care of ourselves, because when the time comes, we all need to be ready to fight. And I think that time is going to come. Today I want to tell you a story with a lesson, so bear with me a minute. I'm not going to talk about everything that's happening in LA. There's a million of those things. I think that'll end up coming up in this video, but I'm not specifically going to talk about that. I will say I think that while it's extremely scary and all of us are going, told you so, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen, I'm feeling more hopeful that it is going to be nipped in the bud before it's completely devastating. I don't know, maybe that's wishful thinking. But let me tell you this story. I was just telling a friend about this. In college, I went to community college first, and then I transferred to a university, and this was in community college. I had a professor, and I was still trying to decide, I think, what I wanted to study, and I took a course in economics, and I had this professor who was outrageous, controversial, embarrassing. I mean, a group of us got together and turned him into human resources. He would literally call out women in class. I was one of them. It was the early 90s. We were wearing that super dark matte lipstick, dark, like Marrakesh it was called. I can't remember the brand, but he called, I don't know if he called me out specifically, but he said, you know why women wear really dark lipstick, right? It goes back to baboons and their butts were red and it's a mating ritual. I mean, he would just say shit like that in class. He would call people out and he would talk about Sting and Every Breath You Take and how that song is terrible. You kids are all listening to that. He's a stalker. I mean, he was a little ahead of his time in a lot of ways, but he was extremely outspoken, went outrageous, inappropriate, went off topic. He made us mad, but I learned so much in that class. And that class and the way he taught it, it might have outraged me, it might have made me mad, it might have made me incredulous. I paid attention. I learned, and I think he's part of the reason I decided to study what I studied, which was partially economics and political science, but the combination of two. So what is the moral? You might already have guessed. What's the moral of this story? Who does that remind you of? That crazy professor. He was tenured, so there was nothing we could do at San Francisco City College. I wish I could remember his name. Anybody go to San Francisco City College in the 90s? It must have been like 92, 93. I feel like his name started with a B. Crazy professor of economics. But who does he remind you of? And the point of me telling you this story is because you think about the guy who's in the White House right now, how outrageous he is, how inappropriate he is. But let's forget about his lack of morals. I don't know that my professor was completely morally bankrupt or not. He was definitely a little kind of off, right? Kind of unhinged in a lot of ways. But he taught economics extremely well. Unlike the guy in the White House now who's crazy and unhinged and he can't run a business. He can't run the country. He's a complete failure. This guy is a complete failure. But the common denominator here is the outrageousness, the personality that he brought to the table, and that the outrageousness is part of the whole personality that engages people and keeps them interested. Think about all the people who never voted before, who voted for Trump, because he got them engaged. They were probably learning for the first time in their lives. They were learning false, fake news. They were learning, he was filling their heads with lies and propaganda. But these people who have never paid attention to politics their whole lives, but needed someone to blame for all the problems in their lives. And I've been listening to a lot of podcasts and reading a lot and videos about how the Democratic Party has failed people. I've been listening to a lot of that, and I am starting to see how the Democrats have failed working class America, and that left a void for someone like Trump to come in. But my point here is that it is his outrageousness. It is the very idea that he was so inappropriate, that he said the most ridiculous things, that got people engaged. So now we have millions of people who voted for him, who are engaged in politics, who have never been engaged in politics before, who are unfortunately following every lie that he spews, but they are engaged, and they are the ones who got him elected. All because he is outrageous and controversial. But they were learning something. Again, they weren't learning anything accurate, but they were learning things and engaged for the first time in their lives. My point in telling you this story, because this professor probably changed the course of my life, at least what I studied. Donald Trump has changed the course of this country. He's changed the course of individuals, of citizens in this country. Think about people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. He changed the course of their lives. He moved people to the point of taking action. And this is what we need on the side of the Democrats. We are so afraid of appearing inappropriate, especially. I just listened to a Sam Harris podcast earlier today. If you don't know Sam Harris, he's great. He's got I can't remember the name of the podcast. I'll put it right here. But I was listening to him this morning, an interview with, is it Torres in the House from New York, the representative? And we as Democrats are so afraid of being inappropriate. We are so afraid of offending the far left. We got so caught up, and I do believe that there is some truth in this. We got so caught up in trans rights and immigrants' rights, and I think our messaging missed the mark. And I know that we can go both ways on this. Those things are extremely, extremely important. But when we have the other side taking sound bites from every Democratic leader about trans rights while they're not able to put food on the table, the perception is that we care more about immigrants, that we care more about trans people, that we care more about everybody else but middle America. The white farmer, the white men, especially the white men. And I've also been listening to a lot of stuff about the dilemma of young men these days. So here is what I think we need to do. And what we can, and I'll end with what we can do to further this theory, this idea. We need to be outrageous. Gavin Newsom is a perfect example. He started going on Joe Rogan's. He started saying things. I think he said something about trans rights that really pissed off liberals. Liberals, the reason we keep losing is because we keep fighting amongst ourselves over minutia. And what we really need to focus on is the plight of every American. We've lost our way on that. We've gotten so wrapped up in the outrage of, the bathrooms in the Capitol and sports, that we have allowed them to pull us into those arguments, and we have spent all our time and energy on those arguments instead of communicating to the farmers, to the factory workers, to the steel workers, to the people in the border towns. We do care about those things, but we've been shitty at talking about it because we keep chasing their squirrel into the transphobia world, right? And having to defend ourselves. We need outrageousness. We need to stop worrying about offending somebody. Look at the most offensive, disgusting, despicable, vile human being on the planet was elevated to the most powerful man in the world. We need to stop being afraid. We need to stop trying to be so perfect. And in the end, what that means for us is we need to stop expecting perfection. We need a little more grace. We need a little more tolerance. We need a little more tolerance. We need to accept, just like they're like, well, I don't agree with everything Trump does, but his policies, we need more of that. Of course, not to the extent. Of course, we would never, ever, ever elect a rapist. We would never elect a 34-time convicted felon. We would never elect someone who has failed at every business venture he'd ever had and who is clearly robbing Americans blind because he's robbed everybody blind his whole life. We would never go to that extent. That is a very extreme version of allowing people to not be perfect. The right took it to the extreme and elected the most imperfect individual ever. But we need more of that on our side. When Gavin Newsom goes on Joe Rogan and be like, okay, that's not what I would have done, but I'm going to assume he's got a reason for doing it, and I like his policies. And frankly, when he did go on Joe Rogan or whoever it was, I was like, okay, he's trying to reach out to those younger men who we've lost. And okay, we need more of that. We need to start being outrageous ourselves. Be outrageous and loud in sharing truth, in speaking to the working class who has felt abandoned by the Democratic Party. And I've said this in so many videos, and my last video, some people got the impression that I was just giving up, that I wasn't going to do anything anymore. I'm still very active. I'm working on my own little personal project. I'm just going to put it that way. And I'm sharing truth. I'm sharing facts. I'm sharing thought-provoking content to help get some people to maybe think in a different way. No, not on a public scale, because that's just not what I want to, that's just not where I am right now. And I also think in some ways that's not the answer to affecting change. We're all thinking that we need to affect change by blasting to strangers on social media. It starts in your own small circle. We've been saying that since he won the election. It starts small. It starts in your community. And so that's why me making these videos, I'm preaching to the choir. I'm not reaching anybody. I would love to think that I am, but I'm not. So I have chosen to shrink my circle and try to affect the people I know personally. And that's something that you can do too. And what I mean by being outrageous is, they sneeze and, you sneeze and they say, God bless you. Okay, what is going to be your response to they sneeze, say, Democrats love the working class. Democrats aren't anti-border. Literally, be ridiculous. Be outrageous. Be annoying. Get your version of HR to have it sit you down and have a talk with you, because you said something about women's asses and baboons in class. Does this make any sense at all? And so what I think we need on our side to further our goal of preserving democracy is we need to uplift the outrageous. None of these safe, no Nancy Pelosi's who've played it safe and have taken corporate money her whole career. Promote the AOCs. Promote the Bernie Sanders. And I'm gonna tell you, I never understood Bernie Sanders as much as I understand him now. I'm starting to watch him more and listen to him more. I chose Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders because I thought he was just an old white guy, and I thought he was too radical for average Americans to vote for him. I didn't think anybody would, on the other side would vote for him. But the more I listen to him, the more I see that maybe that is exactly what we needed. The outrageous, crazy ideas. They have had the outrageous, crazy ideas. Who is ever going to overturn Roe v. Wade? Crazy, outrageous, right? It happened. Who is ever going to elect this 34-time convicted felon? Crazy, outrageous, right? It happened. Who is even going to think about taking away gay rights or segregation or interracial marriage? All of a sudden, it's on the chopping block. Think big, think outrageous. Outrageous. It is not outrageous that we live in a country that feeds everybody, where healthcare doesn't bankrupt us, where farmers don't have to live on subsidies. It isn't outrageous to have the world that we envision. What's outrageous is that we're too shy about promoting it, standing up for it. That we have been knocked down and abused so badly by the other side that we have been made to feel that we're crazy because we envision John Lennon's world, right? Imagine all the people. Imagine a world of peace. Imagine. So that's my thought for you today. Leave your thoughts below. I hope you're doing well. And take care of yourself, because when it comes time to fight, and I think the time is going to come pretty soon, you need to be at your best so that you can. All right, leave your thoughts below, and I will see you next time.